Welcome to Voices from the Field podcast presented by Extra Innings Softball, where the stories are real, the conversations are honest, and the game goes way beyond the field. We're bringing you insight, inspiration, and all things softball from the people shaping the sport.
Welcome, Extra Innings Softball family, back to Voices of the Field, our podcast. We are so excited. I think this is going to be a phenomenal interview. We are blessed by the Notre Dame Softball head coach, Kris Ganeff, and her senior pitcher. Am I correct?
Yes.
Micaela Kastor, all the way from California. And we would be remiss to not introduce Mr. Nick Yuska, the SID for Notre Dame Softball. And this is a really special podcast for me to kind of introduce Notre Dame Softball and all of the things. We've started to really want to get into the inside with all the softball programs around the country to kind of get to know the things that people wouldn't know unless they had a daughter playing or they were avid fans or they lived right there to kind of know it. So welcome first, Kris and Micaela and Nick, to Voices from the Field with Extra Innings Softball.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Fantastic. All right, let's start with you, Kris. I don't know how many years you've been there, but I know you were associate head coach with one of my other good friends, Coach Deanna Gumpf, for a very long time. And I think it's such a neat thing and speaks volumes not only about the University of Notre Dame, but also about the softball program there, that they have had such a long-standing culture and family and values with the same people. That's something we don't see necessarily all the time in all sports, let alone just softball. Tell me, what makes Notre Dame something that you say, man, I'm going to be here, retire here, and do all the good things? So tell me all about that.
Yeah, I think it is very unique. It's just a special place. There's something about it that when it is in your soul and you get it, you don't want to leave it, right? Like it's something that's there. And so for me I was also a kid who played here. And so I had that opportunity to kind of grow myself here and see what the place did for me as a student athlete. And then when I had the opportunity to come back, it was one of those things where I got here and my family was created here in terms of my husband and children. And we just loved it so much that, anytime anybody kept coming after, for a job here and there, we were content with not chasing a title and just leaving for any reason. And so I stayed, and I would have been content staying Deanna's assistant until the day we both rode off into the sunset, but she made that decision a little sooner. And so I had to be guns a-blazing and ready to take it over.
That's awesome. And, it's such a cool thing. I guess when I think about the word loyalty. That's not something we see as much as often in sports, obviously, with the Power Four and everything that's going on. Money chases a lot of different things right now. So I think that's such a cool thing, and what a blessing for athletes like Micaela coming to really understand what that is. I mean, I think that's a cool thing. So Micaela, what I would ask you is, what takes a California blonde-headed West Coast kid from California all the way to Notre Dame to play softball?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I echo everything that Coach Kris said about how spectacular this place truly is, top to bottom. And obviously, like in the recruiting process, you have a lot of options. You have a lot of things to weigh out. I knew I wanted to go to a competitive D1 school that provided high academics, but what mattered to me most is just what the feel on the campus was like. And from the moment I stepped on the field out here and just being able to walk around campus, you have that special feeling that the traditions are so deep rooted and this place is built on something so much more than softball. It's community based, it's tradition based. And a huge thing that I realized on my visit is like when you're walking around campus, everybody looks so happy to be here and everybody's smiling at you. You're not going to walk by and get someone putting their head down. Like everybody just loves to be here. And that was just such an incredible feeling. Obviously visiting some other campuses, that wasn't the vibe that I had got initially, but the people here are incredible. And I think every single one of the girls on our team would say that that's their favorite thing about this place is the people are so well-rounded. They're so loving. And from top to bottom with teachers, athletic staff, advisors, all those things, like everybody wants to support you and everybody's wants your success in whatever way that is. So I got that sense immediately and knew that this is a place that I'd call home for the rest of my life.
That's pretty cool. I guess we're gonna have to clip this for Notre Dame softball. Make
I know, that was really
That's
good.
really awesome. Like, okay, podcast done. But
And we rehearsed. We're pretty good. That was good.
well, that's out. That's awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about the hidden traditions. You know, you hear of Notre Dame, just the university, and obviously everybody associates touchdown, Jesus with football and all of that good stuff. But to me, it's really a mystical place that has, like you said, deeper meanings. And to me, when it's settled in those kind of values and those traditions, what does the softball team have that would be like traditions or things that, I don't know, do you have a home run Jesus? I don't know what I'm even asking. So I guess I'm asking for all the insight on what those things are that
Yeah.
you can tell.
Yeah. Okay. So something that was like has always been really important to us is the name of our facility is called Melissa Cook Stadium. And Melissa Cook is obviously it's not a product. It's not something you're walking by and being like, it makes you think like, who is this person? Well, Melissa Cook was an alumnus of our program who was actually killed in a tragic accident in Chicago on the way to her 30th birthday party. And she was the first and only alumnus, knock on wood, that we have lost so far. At the time, back in 2001, when this happened, we went to her parents and said, hey, we want to do like an alumni weekend in honor of Melissa. And so we had it at our old facility, and we put a bench in honor of her name, and it was sitting at our old facility. And like that weekend was so special to her family that at the end of it, they came to us and they were like, listen, we're going to get money from a lawsuit and we don't want it. We want to do something to build in her honor and to help the girls at Notre Dame. And so they offered to build us the stadium. And that's where it all started for us. And it was kind of a crazy process, but they became huge people in our lives, right? They're still around today. Paul and Linda are her mom and her stepdad, Paul and Linda Demo. And they have just given us everything that we need to be competitive and to have this beautiful facility at our hands for the players. And so when I took over, one of the things that was really important to me was, how do we honor her more so that people know her? Our players understand this story because, as time goes on, things kind of get, oh, where did that come from? They just kind of, oh, it's just Melissa Cook Stadium. I always wanted them to know the story behind it. And so actually last year, the very first thing we did on day one when I took over as a team, we did like a little tour of things. And one of the places included Melissa's gravesite, which is here on campus. And it was ironic enough that I was bringing back this whole thing about Melissa. At the same time, Micaela was working on a film with her film partner about Melissa and the story. And we didn't know, we hadn't talked about it. Like it was right. Like you were gone for the summer and I was here trying to get the job. And so we had brought the number 22 back into our program. So there's always a 22 somewhere, and there's some hidden 22s in our stadium.
That Melissa wore.
Yeah, and that was her thing. Micaela did this great movie and has won all these awards, so it's brought even more recognition to Melissa Cook. So if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, cool. I would love to hear that.
For sure. So I'm studying film and television production here at Notre Dame. And I had the opportunity last year in the fall semester to take a documentary production course. So the concept of that class is you show up and you present an idea that you want to spend the whole semester bringing to life through a short documentary. Had recently learned of the story of Melissa Cook and Paul and Linda's connection to her, which I hadn't known for my first couple years. And I was like, oh my gosh, what an incredible story that every single Notre Dame softball player needs to know of when they step on this field. Everybody at this university should know the namesake behind the stadiums that they play on. I thought it was an incredible opportunity to be able to use that class. Paul and Linda were more than willing to allow me to sit them down and share their story. And my partner, co-director Thomas, and I were able to put together this short documentary on Melissa's entire story and legacy here at Notre Dame. And it's kind of taken off from there. Like Coach Kris said, it's picked up some film awards, and it's still kind of in the circuit right now for that. But it was just an incredible opportunity to be able to use our program and Melissa Cook's legacy for some lasting good and to honor her here at Notre Dame.
It's such a cool thing. You have to, if you want, you gotta be able to see it.
What's that?
Like, you're going to have to send it to me because I'm going to have to watch it. And then I might have to get you on something else and do like a big thing on Extra Innings Softball about
Absolutely.
it. Cool. Those are the stories that people need to hear because, no matter what, we all know we're going to put our cleats down at some point in time. And it's really the meaning and the stories behind it that build us who we are today and why we're doing what we're doing. So I just absolutely love that. All right, Nick. So I'm going to switch to you. So you just don't always look like you're just sitting there staring at three women. I know you want to be engaged. So what I would love to ask you, I know in talking before the call started that, you just left the pro league and has come to, Notre Dame and talk about like really more, not so much the university, looking at these two young women, of the reflection of, what is special about the coaching staff and the softball team just in the little time that you've been there?
Yeah, I mean, I came in and I didn't really know a ton about softball, and right away it was something that were like they just accepted me like unlike any other team or program had. I felt just like I was on staff the whole time. It was really they were really including to everything they did, practices, games. One thing I was always worried about was like the travel aspect of it just being a ton of like girls and women, and I mean, it was great. It was like they made me so comfortable. And, I started in December and, the season started in February. So it was kind of a quick turnaround and, never felt flustered or anything. It was such a great transition and they just included me in everything. It was awesome.
That's really cool. That's always neat to hear, Coach, when you hear somebody on the outside reflecting back in about that. So, all right. So let's switch to the team as a whole as we're moving in. You can talk a little bit about last year, but last year. I'm like to look forward to the future and everything and programs are doing and stuff. Tell me about, and this can come from either of you or both of you, the leadership, the captains, the feel of the fall air of what's going, like what are your dreams, your hopes, your expectations, your goals, all that good stuff. Tell us all about Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think we wanted to put last year in the past, but we also wanted to use it as a springboard for where we're trying to go, right? Like we took everything that we possibly could learn out of last year and immediately our staff and team went to work on it, right? Like so none of us were satisfied with that, right? It was not the expectation. But you know what? I think you live and you learn. And I think if we could have sat there and just said, well, it was just the first year, it didn't do anything about it, but we've done a lot about it. And a lot of that has to do with our leadership, which is Micaela's class. So our three captains are from our senior class, which is Micaela Kastor, Mickey Winchell, and Paige Callie. I'm just super pumped for these guys because you know what? From the day that I got the job, their class in particular was like all in, right? They were all in about, we want this to be awesome for Notre Dame, for you, for all of us. And they haven't looked back on that. And in particular, we asked a lot of them this summer, things were going to change, right? Like we needed to change a lot of stuff. And these guys drove it. And so I'm super proud of the way that they were able to start it this summer. It wasn't something that we had to sit on, right? Like they were in constant communication with their teammates. They were in constant communication with us. And we were always trying to be on the same page about where we were taking this. And so obviously our expectation is to take us back to the postseason, right? Like that's Notre Dame softball. That's what we've been known for. We had one of the longest tenured of being in the NCAAs. And that's the goal, right? These guys need to be back in the NCAA. And so that's what we're pushing for. So Kastor, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, like Coach Kris said, obviously like stepping into its senior captain role this year is something that I'm not only super grateful for, but expected from myself and my seniors. And so being able to put that into practice this year has been an incredible opportunity. I think we have an outstanding underclass group, especially our incoming freshmen. And I think from day one, us as captains realized how important it is to start forming those young minds to start thinking like leaders. Because as whatever, me, Mickey, and Paige, we can be the three documented captains, but after we leave, we want to set the foundation for what's expected of future leaders and future captains to come in the years after we've graduated. And so I think everybody's willingness to work hard on a daily basis, everybody's willingness to communicate effectively with one another has not only shown up on the field, but it's just apparent in how we handle our business on the field, off the field. We've built such an incredible culture here, and it's the best that I've seen coming off of a summer turnaround just in these past month. It's just been a month and a half. Yeah. And so it's really rewarding to see the work that we're putting in reflected on the things that we're doing out in the field, and also just the culture that we have in the team room and the locker room. Everybody, we spend 95% of our time together. And the 5% that we get the opportunity to, have a social life, we still choose to spend that time together. So I think that's reflective of all the work that we've put in just to know one another and understand how each other's minds work. And I'm really excited to see how that translates onto the field this year when we play.
Yeah. That's been super important to us. It's that piece, like that culture piece is something
Yes.
that undeniably we knew needed to take a shift. And these guys have done a tremendous job with that.
I love to hear that. And I keep hearing a common thread between the two of you. It's the culture and it's the teamwork and it's the hard work. So like, I always love to hear from people being an old coach and an old player and have a daughter that's getting ready to go start college and stuff too, is I love to hear, like, how do you go about building your team culture? Do you have secrets to share with other, not college programs, but the younger coaches and stuff like that? Because I think it's something to be said. A lot of people just think you show up and there's little, I guess I'll say shamrock sprinkles that you can put on people that makes team culture grow. But there's a lot of work that goes in it, and it's not always fun and it's not always pretty. And it's a lot of soul bearing and deep diving into the whys and the wheres and all that kind of stuff. Do either of you have the ability or want to share like your favorite team bonding or your favorite team culture stuff or your standards or anything like that you'd like the people to know?
Yeah, I mean, I think like it starts with like the people that we surround ourselves with, right? Like I said this before, like when I hired the coaches that I hired, I could have went after great coaches, right, that had these excellent softball values, but I also wanted to make sure that as human beings, they understood how I ticked. I'm a big relationship person. That was just who I was. I think all the years through with Coach Gumpf on the staff, like I was the relationship person. And so I wanted to make sure that that part of me didn't change as a head coach. And so I wanted to make sure that the people that I brought in also understood how important that was as well. And I want this to be a family, right? Like this is second to my family. Like these guys are right there, right there. My family edges them out by like an inch, but my family makes it so I can be part of this family and we can include them all together. So I think we wanted to create that. And so I think it really takes a coach that's okay with, you value these guys as people, not as softball players. Like softball just happens to be one of the many things these kids happen to be really good at. But guess what? Like that's not going to be at the end of the day what I value them on in our program. And I hope that I'm doing that. I hope that that's the message that they're getting, is that, you know what? Softball is softball. And when we're out there and we're business, but when we come back in the team room, like let's have a good time together and love one another and be together. And I think that's the secret, is that it's not all about softball. As much as I love it and it's been my life, like it's not all about softball.
Yeah, and I can say to that too, it's easy to have incredible team culture when you have someone like Coach Kris factoring in incredible human beings. And she's very intentional about that, like who's coming to this program aside from, are you a good softball player? Are you a good person? And so it kind of makes our job easy to get along with one another, because everybody in here, brilliant minds, and incredibly generous and selfless individuals who are willing to work for something bigger than themselves. And that's something that we talk about on a daily basis. Like it is such a team sport, and we need to hold ourselves to these levels of accountability where when things go wrong and there are challenges, like we have such a good relationship enough that we can call each other out and push each other back in line when it needs that extra shove. But aside from that, something that intentional that we prioritize here is our team bonding and what we do outside of the field. And that that's a lot of things. Like this month, we're going to a haunted house together.
I'm not sure about that one.
We're going to we're going to a spring park. Every single month, we have something that we look forward to doing as a team outside of the softball field. We have little like cohorts within our team that every senior is assigned like a group of 7 to 8 girls, and we have weekly dinners. We have mental health wellness groups. We have fashion and entertainment groups. So we all have ways that we're contributing to the team. But everybody just loves spending time together, whether that's beach volleyball or not beach volleyball, sand volleyball in the off season, whether we're playing.
Well, at beach, it's okay.
Beach volleyball for all the California girls that are on our team.
Absolutely. I do the same thing all the time. Don't worry.
Yeah, but we're just so intentional about wanting to be around each other constantly, because we're so aware of how that's going to translate to in season, being able to be a well-oiled machine and play for one another at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think
It's
one
such
thing
a
that,
beautiful thing.
sorry, Carrie. I think
Go
one
ahead,
thing
go
that
ahead.
she hit on that is something different that we needed to change is the leadership, and the whole team within itself is so much more comfortable being accountable, right? Like they are so good at being like she said, they can get into each other if they have to. Like, hey, you could have got that ball. And they take it so much better when it's coming from each other. And so I think they finally hit that stage where they have the courage to be like, we're better than that. So why can't I ask you to be better? I still love you when we get off the field, but I'm going to ask you to do that. And I think they've accepted that really well from each other and tremendously from the coaches going at them.
And I'll just add quickly to that something that is really, really important. I think that I was able to recognize from my years prior is it's shifted from she's going after my spot to try to bump me out of the lineup. And it shifted to this idea that like the best person is going to be put on the field, and whoever that ends up being is going to ultimately gauge our success. So why would I be upset if someone's working hard to get that time? That person's only going to push me to be better. And so I think once we made that shift to the mindset of like, okay, we're helping each other get better, we're helping each other learn and grow, instead of like, oh, she took my spot, I'm going to be upset about that. It's motivating us on a daily basis to want to work harder and be going towards that team success instead of just personal, like, oh, I get to play, I get to be a starter. And I think that's really, really helpful for us.
It's so brilliant to hear the two of you speak about some things that are very near and dear to my heart. Like, I love the thought process, and I've always, with my own kid or teams that I've coached in the past, it says like softball is not who you are; it's just what you do.
Yep.
And it's what you do, and it's in my opinion, whether you agree or not, it's Jesus's platform that you've been given to speak his name. And when
Yep.
you take it off of what it's about for you, and you look at it that way, I think all of the pressure and the anxiety and all the different things that take away or steal the joy of the game, maybe prior to getting to college, is just lost. And it's so cool to hear her say that, because in this day and age, and I guess I'll use this to kind of transfer and a little bit away from just Notre Dame softball and kind of get your two opinions, because obviously you both have great minds in the game, is to talk a little bit about where college softball is and where it's headed. And, everybody can have their opinions, good, bad, and ugly. And I think we're living in a renaissance where the tail is wagging the dog right now, and the dog's kind of trying to just get its feet put back on the ground, and some good and some bad. And I might be unlike a lot of people. I'm okay with that right now because I think it's long overdue in some regards. I don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle, but we've got to figure out how to to get it. And then when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about name, image, and likeness, and the portal, and all of that kind of stuff. I can remember the first time someone was saying, well, I can't believe she got paid 1.2 million. I'm like, I don't care. I'm glad she did.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally did. And I'm like, look, when my daughter chooses where she's going there for 4 years. I told her, this is like practicing picking a spouse. You're going to have to work out the hard times and get through it and all that. But if somebody came to her for 1.2 million, you got to sit down and talk about what that is, because then it's loyalty to a different fact. You got to be loyalty to life-changing money for your family. Like there's different things for that, and I think we've wanted, Kris, you and I can talk because I'm even older than you, that we've wanted so much more for these female athletes, and they're starting to get it. Do I like the way it's all rolled out? No, but it's probably the way it had to happen for it to ever roll out. Do I think these young ladies should have been being paid a lot more money than they were? Absolutely, because heck, when I was in college, I was on a full scholarship, paid for nothing, and had to get my mom to buy me deodorant, because if I didn't, it would have been a violation. Like, we had no extra money for anything, and even in my coaching days, I can remember athletes that were on full rides that had no parents, and, dorms shut down over the winter. Where do they go? Like, all of those kind of things. There's things that I go, look, the NC2A has made a lot of money off of the backs of these athletes for a long time, and I do think they've deserved more. I don't know if I like how it's rolled out, but maybe we can kind of get it waved all through it and stuff through that. I would love, Kris, to hear from you first. How does Notre Dame, or how do you handle the portal, handle the NIL? Like, how has it changed and affected maybe the way you've coached, maybe the way you recruit, or has it?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has. I think we're a little bit different, like we said before, right? Like, our institution is a high academic institution. So Notre Dame is not going to let us just give Notre Dame degrees out, right? And so with that, we can't just go get any kid that we want, because because we want them, because they're going to just make the softball program better. There are a lot of kids out there that I would have liked to have had my hand in on, but that wasn't going to happen because it's just not the way we do things. And I understand that. I think if I was someone coming from another institution and taking over this job, I think it would have been a little bit of a shell shock. But I think the reality is I'm used to it. We know how to compete and win within our parameters, right? And so we have to be really smart and strategic about the kids that we go after. And we want kids who there is undeniably no other choice for them because they love this place so much. And so if you're a recruit, and I just had this conversation, I don't know if this would be a violation because I'm not going to say a name, but I just had this conversation with a kid that I just wasn't getting, like, they were wanting to keep comparing, right, the rest of the schools that they were looking at. And I'm like, you know what? You don't have to worry about hurting my feelings because I want people who they stepped on this campus. It was in their soul because I know that they will stay. And that's the thing. Like, I know they will stay because they love it so much. They will do anything for this place. And so I think that's the little bit things that are a little different for us. When it comes to NIL, that's just part of the game, right? It's just part of what it is today. And so it's like, just like everything else, right? At one point, we didn't want to look at kids' social media. Now that's how they recruit themselves, right? They put everything on social media. At one point, we didn't want, to change our recruiting calendar. Oh, we changed it. And now that's just how it works. I think it's just another thing. It's just something that each school has to be, work their own way through. And, like, we are willing to go out and do whatever we have to do to help our kids. And so they're the most important thing. They're the things that are going to sell Notre Dame softball. And so we want to make sure whatever it is that we're helping them achieve the things that they need to be successful.
Yeah. And I will say, to make this Notre Dame specific, I guess I can only speak on my own experience here. I think that's something that's so special, like Coach Kris said about Notre Dame, is people don't want to leave here. That's why another testament to why our culture is as incredible as it is because people come here for their 4 years. You're building lifelong relationships with people who aren't leaving after a year, or people being brought in for their last year. And I think that's something that needs to be cherished and looked at really, really admirably about the tradition and the culture that we've built here. Is people come here to stay and they're attached to Notre Dame for the rest of their lives. And I think that's something that unfortunately is shifting in the atmosphere right now in college athletics. But from my own experience, I think it's something that as closely as we can hold on to, I think we should. And as for NIL, like Coach Kris said, I think it's an incredible asset that people are being able to, or women are being able to tap into now. And I know myself and some of my other teammates have reaped the benefits of that here at Notre Dame, and it's just the cherry on top. But when you come to a place like Notre Dame, I don't think there's any NIL that can top the degree and the experience that you're going to leave with.
I love that. I love
Bingo.
that. Okay, so let's shift to the fun. One more serious question, then I'll shift to two little fun ones.
Okay.
If you were talking, and I want this from both of you because I think this is really key. Whether it's the class of 27 or the class of 28 or 29, heck, I can't believe we're getting ready to say 2030, but the class of 2030. What would be like your biggest piece of advice I'll go from you, Kris. What would be your biggest piece of advice to parents in the recruiting process?
I would say in the recruiting process, don't put your kid up and her journey and compare it to someone else's, because this is what I was just saying to kids that were here for camp this weekend. You know what? There's some 27s that out the gate on September 1, they knew their place, they got an offer, boom, they're done. But there's a whole lot of kids that are going to wait that cycle out and might not get committed until this summer, even beyond that, right? But guess what? They all ended up at the same place. And so that's the thing that I keep reminding them is that, you know what? Every school is going to be a little bit different. Your daughter's journey is going to be a little bit different than the kid that she's playing next to. Trust the process. Make sure that your kid is the one that's being, that is the person that's reaching out to the coaches. Make sure your kid is the one that's doing everything she can to get herself recruited. I think, a lot of people think recruiting is coming from us. It's coming from the players, right? Like, you as a player can do so much more than me maybe walking up to your field and seeing you play, And so I think do a really good job of taking over the ownership of that.
I love that. Micaela, if I'm asking you about recruiting, if you were turning and looking to like the 27 class, because they're the ones that are popping off the board right now, left and right, going everywhere, and maybe someone who's got it down to one or two places, and it's really hard. Like, it's a flip of a coin, and there are most athletes are going to go. They could say, I could have gone to A or B, and that kind of stuff. What was it that somebody might have shared with you? What is something in looking back and reflection of your journey that said, man, I wish somebody would have said this to me, and it would have made it all easier or better, or whatever you want to say?
I mean, I will say, from my answer, I'm glad that I got the advice that I did during the recruiting process, and so I'll pass on that advice. You'll know instantly when you're in the right place. You'll feel it, like Coach Kris said, in your bones when you're on the right campus. And I would say for the girls that are struggling to decide, whether it's down to two options or they're just post September 1 and they've got the world in front of them, I would say don't look at the name that's going to read across your jersey as just the one thing that you're holding. Like, don't look at the softball program and whatever their standing was last year. Like, don't look at that as the only reason that you make a decision on where you're going to go to, and then be a part of for the rest of your life. I think so many girls are, reaching for those Final Four teams that always end up in the postseason, in the World Series, and they're like, I want to go there, I want to go there. And for some girls, that's incredible, and that's going to be the best fit for them. But you have to look at the school as a complete unit. What is this providing me academically? What is this providing me socially, spiritually? Like, is this the environment that I think I'm going to thrive in? And then softball is just, is it the right fit, or is it the coaching staff I want to play for? Is it in the environment? But I think a lot of people chase those big names and overlook a lot of the really important things, and they get there and they realize they're unhappy. I would say, I think looking back on my process, I was not an immediate post September 1 commit. I took some time in that process to really weigh out all my options, have the conversations with every coach, whether it was D1, D2, D3, whoever wanted to talk to you, because you're always going to learn something about yourself and what you're looking for and what you really want. And so I think going forward and having those conversations, even if you have no initial interest in that school, you're always going to gain something from that. And so go through that process, because then when you find the school and you talk to that coach that you realize everything fits, then you're going to know immediately.
That's awesome. All right. So some fun things. Does Notre Dame softball have a favorite meal place? You always go Subway? You always go where? Chick-fil-A? What's your favorite? Where does Coach always pull the bus up and everybody go, ah?
Not anymore. She skipped that last year.
did?
Yeah, for us, because
Is that the ice cream place? Top serve? What are you waiting for?
yeah, that was.
I love Jason's.
I love it, but the team told our director of ops, Jamie, last year that they didn't like we were at Jason's Deli too much. But I think a fan favorite is Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, we do like Cheesecake Factory.
We eat really well.
Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah, Texas Roadhouse.
Nick just nodded his head. Yes, Cheesecake Factory. He's all
Longhorn. Is that what it's called?
Longhorns.
Yeah, Jamie Spitali does a great job for us as our director of everything. So
we do. Another fun thing that we like to do, especially when we travel, is we always find a local ice cream shop to go to. And we call it optional fun, but it's never optional. It's always mandatory because everybody wants to be there every single time. So we'll always have one night that we go and find a local ice cream shop and test all the flavors and see the town.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. So for everybody traveling to South Bend for all sports, but specifically softball this spring, what's the best place to eat?
Me, hands down, as a person that's lived here for so long, you got to go to Rocco's. Rocco's is phenomenal. It's like just the best place. I love the owners, Warren and Linda. They're great. So Rocco's is my nomination.
All right.
I would say, because I traveled on foot for the last couple years, so something that's really close to our campus is Brew Burger. And a lot of our girls love Brew Burger. We got the $2 burgers on Tuesday nights, which is a college kid's favorite dinner.
I didn't know that was a possible thing, $2 meal from anywhere. So that's
I know.
We have a cheer in our dugout that's dedicated to $2 burger on Tuesday night. So
well, I won't put the heat on you to say it right now, but I might soon one day. So.
You'll hear it in the background.
Yeah, if you ever watch one of our broadcasts, you'll hear it.
I will definitely make that a thing that I will do this year. All right, so I'm going to put the heat on Kris first. Give me one word that describes Micaela.
Passion. She is the most passionate player that there'll ever be for this program. And you will see it. You don't even have to, like, it makes you give chills when you watch her play.
That's so cool. I feel like I've kind of experienced that today anyways. All right, Micaela, this is your chance. What's your one word to describe Coach Kris?
I would say heart in everything that she does, the heart that she has for every single girl on this team, all 21 of us, and the heart that she has for this program and for this university. There's so much love that she puts into every single thing that she does here, and it's so apparent. It's very apparent.
Oh, well, like all things that are good, everything comes to an end. I just want to thank Nick for reaching out and making this interview possible for us. What I would really like to say is that there's no doubt in my mind the direction that your program's going from just listening, and anyone that listens to this podcast is going to understand that culture is going to put you guys back in the playoffs. So mark my words right here today. I see you in the postseason. And I will be forever an Irish softball fan because of Micaela and Kris, unless you're playing Arkansas when my daughter's playing. So that's not for another year. So Micaela will graduate. So anyways, with that being said, if there's anything that you would like to include that I forgot or didn't put in, I am going to make sure I challenge everybody to tune in to watch and listen for the hamburger cheer, if nothing else. Definitely. There's no way you can. I'm going to start saying mess with touchdown Jesus. So we're gonna start the new fantasy of home run Jesus instead of touchdown Jesus. I think that's a better way to go because I like that sport better anyway. So
I love that. I say just go Irish. That's what I say. Go Irish.
Go Irish. I like that. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait for everybody to get to know Notre Dame softball.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Voices from the Field, presented by Extra Inning Softball. Don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on Spotify, and visit our website at extrainningsoftball.com for more stories, rankings, and updates from around the game. We'll see you guys next week.